All right. So, well, thanks everybody for contributing to the session. I see we have one more person who just came in. Um, didn't quite make out who that was. Let me see if I can find them. Oh no, I know what happened. When I start presenting, I occupy another space for whatever reason. Sorry, I forgot about that. All right, guys. So, what are you all seeing? Just my projection right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to go to the first document that I'd asked you all to download, which was this one. This
Right.
is the course outline. Are you all seeing this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good. So this is the course outline that is for the time being guiding us through the the course. But the course is primarily going to be based upon us exploring major sections of these two textbooks together, which is why you would have seen these two textbooks up for downloads. So
Right.
it yes, right? So those two textbooks are required reading for the course. There's a couple of chapters from the leadership experience, which is by Daft, and there's about we're going from chapter 1 to about chapter 9 on the exploring leadership. Um, Now, what I wanted to draw to your attention was the first off, this is meant to be an introductory course into leadership ethics and governance,
Mm-hmm.
and it is not meant to be a definitive study of leadership, but a reflective journey through the process of understanding leadership and leadership potential. The objectives of the course um, are really these technical objectives here. So what we're
Mm-hmm.
looking for is for students to be able to understand the various themes. Let me make this a little bigger so anybody with sight issues can have. All right. To understand various leadership models, various theories of leadership, can apply defend decisions using ethical decision making processes and tools, create plans that apply to the concept of good governance, organize teams in such a way that it demonstrates and displays an awareness and understanding of group dynamics and teamwork. So this, Ms. Thomas, is what you were talking about in terms of the overlap with business orientation and um, report on leadership issues facing our community and society. So we're going to be looking at evaluating and comparing what the model that we're going to be looking at with the examples of leadership that exist around us currently and in the past. And we'll be looking at trying to effect um, behavior changes in individuals to look at their personal philosophy for leadership and ethical behavior. So the last one there is behavior modification. And for all of you here who are fairly advanced in your studies, you would understand that behavior modification is probably one of the hardest things to accomplish with adults. I mean, we could look at what's happening around us now in terms of the situation with mask wearing and the fact that the government has to be almost pleading with people to please wear masks, please wear, but because we're unaccustomed to behaving in that manner, and as a result, how do you get people to change? So one of the things that you have experienced in your lives is behavior modification, and behavior modification takes place from stimulus. So for those of you who might be aware of Pavlov's dog, you might be aware of that theory about behavior modification, where that whole process started. But let me ask a question. How did you change your behavior when you were growing up? What stimulated you to change behavior? And how many parents do I have in my class tonight? because most of you all practice behavior modification as well if you have children. Come think. This is not a this is not a class where can you guys hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
All right.
sir.
So how do parents modify behavior in children?
The punishment.
Through what? Sorry, somebody said it.
Punishment. Well,
By example.
Well, that's one way, yeah.
I
But
would say, sorry, I would say also in rewards.
rewards,
Yeah, not
yes,
just
that's
punishment.
another way to elicit change. But the one that has been constantly used in most of our lives is what? Not punishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good for that.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
behavior
Yeah.
modification can be accomplished with a number of tools. Now, Costat can't beat our students, right? Would you agree with that? I mean, corporal
Yeah.
punishment has
Oh
been,
yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, but sometimes we wonder, sometimes maybe we should, let that come back and forth. So the objective of this course is long, in that it's going to ask us as adults to try and modify our behavior based upon us evaluating and examining a leadership model that you may or may not agree with. And that is one of the objectives that we are looking at trying to achieve in the class for this point, for this course. Now, the methodology of the course is also going to be dramatically different to what you've done in other courses, or you may have had some elements of it in other courses, but this one is going to be a lot more of you demonstrating your capacity in leadership and your capacity to do certain things. And that brings us to a document that I did not load onto the classroom yet,
Uh-huh.
but there is a tag there for it, which is the schedule, and that is this document here. And that's because, are you seeing this document,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Mikkel, are you seeing it as well? And remember, you having some problems. Okay, can we not be? All right, so Mr. Cooper's still having some issues, it looks like. All right, let me just go back to that page. All right, so what it means is simply that you guys are going to have to teach the class. There are 10 presentations or 10 chapters of work from the two textbooks that have to be presented. Well, there's actually 13 chapters. I am going to present the first three, which is the first unit of the main textbook, which is the Exploring Leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And the remaining 10 are going to be presented by small groups in the class during the rest of the semester.
Remaining 10 or 7, sir?
10.
Oh, it's okay.
13 chapters.
Oh, 13. Okay.
Yeah, 1, 3.
Oh,
So there are 10 presentations
right.
that are going to take place.
Yeah.
All right. See them listed here.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And I am going to be starting off the ball by doing two sessions to complete 3 chapters.
Right.
Okay. So I'll start the ball rolling with doing those, and the intention would be that the 24th, which is next week, would not be a live session, but
Right.
it'll be something I'll post on the system with a PowerPoint with a voiceover, and you all will look at that material.
Yeah.
but it's in relation to chapters 1 to 3. So the material is already there for you to read. And then on the first, we will return and have a live session. So I'll change that to red so that you know that that is a live session. And then from then onwards, all the presentations, we're doing 2 chapters per class. All right, all these presentations here
Yeah.
until the 5th of November will be the class members, various class, small groups and class members presenting every week. So every week we will be meeting, and this is the unfortunate element. Well, I say the unfortunate element, but what makes this class a little more taxing is that we have more live sessions,
Right.
because each week 2 sets of people will be presenting, and then we take a bit of a break, because from the 5th of November we have a break until the next exercise, which is the midterm exercise. But the midterm exercise will be done asynchronously. So I'll put up the midterm exercise, and you all will have a week to work through the documents and I have some details that's coming with that.
Okay.
And the next live event would be the debate, but we will need between, which is the 10th of December. So between the 5th of November and the 10th of December, we would have to meet a few times to put our debate activity together, because these are all the evaluations that we're talking about.
Right.
Now, the presentation itself will count for 30% of your final grade. The midterm, well, I have the details of it here. So the presentation is 30% of your final grade. The debate is 15. The midterm is 20. And then we have a self-analysis for 20, and then reflections on a leadership plan for the 15th. So these are all of the assessments that are that make up the evaluation for this course.
Yeah.
So it starts with you guys taking responsibility for the delivery of the content from the textbooks. I am not teaching, but I will be evaluating your presentations. And the evaluation methodology is explained here. This is what I'll be utilizing to assess your presentations to the class. All right. So one of the things that we need to do now is we need to set up small groups. Now we have in this class, we have 25 students registered, of which we have 3 people absent. So, and we have literally 10 chapters to present. So that gives us, each group can equally get 2.5 people, which is not really practical. So teams would have to be between, so we can get, how can we do it? We can do this. Trying to work out the mathematics of it here. We can do, a couple groups can go by 2s, and a couple groups can go by 3s. So I'll identify which chapters maybe would be best for a team of 3 to tackle. And they tend to be the latter chapters where they start to get a little more. So this chapter here.
So before I continue.
Yep, go ahead.
Are the groups going to stay the same throughout the entire semester?
No, because when we get to the debate, the team structure changes again. This is going to be initially small teams of 2 to 3, and the other teams will be, for debating exercise, we're going to have probably teams of maybe up to about, well, we have 8 and 9 people, so it'll be much bigger, but there will also be some subdivisions in it as well for the debating exercise. All right, so one is a small group activity, the other one is a larger group activity with sort of jigsaw activities going on. But as I go through, I'll explain I'll explain the process for you a little bit. So first thing first, we need people to, all right, so the ones I highlighted here are the ones that tentatively we can look at. I mean, two people can't present them because they have, but they tend to be much larger chapters that require a little more effort so that a team of three can deal with it. That's chapters 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that's about 5 chapters. So 5 3s are 15, and 2 5s are 10. So that'll be 25 right there. So if we have the first 5 presentations going off with teams of 2, and the latter 5 going off with teams of 3, that should work, right? So 15 students will be tackling the second half, and 10 students will tackle the first 5. You all understand the mathematics there, the logic?
A try.
Yeah.
You're trying to, okay. So we have to use up everybody from the class. That's what I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
But we're a little handicapped today because we're missing 3 people. I'd have to email them and find out what happened.
Right.
Unless, of course, they aren't. The first 5 chapters tend to be more of the more straightforward, simpler chapters to go through. And as we start to progress through the chapters, it gets a little more technical. But the content still follows the same logical fashion. The primary issue here is that there can't be any skipping. We can't present one chapter, skip one, and then go to the next one. It has to be presented in order. So if for some reason one presentation fails, it will stop another presentation from proceeding. All right. I mean, we have some allowances we can make in terms of on that day we can have an inversion of them, but generally the logic of the content, chapter 5, for example, will depend upon what chapter 4 said, and chapter 4 will depend upon chapters 1, 2, and 3, and so on, moving forward. Because it is the development of a concept or idea that they're dealing with. You would see an inversion in the chapters here after the first. This is the draft here. So this chapter, it comes from the draft as well, but this one is a little more. Let me use a different color for that. The purple ones are the draft, so that it will kind of stand out a little bit, and they come from the second textbook, the leadership experience. The leadership experience, I should say. All right. Did I get that right? Doesn't look right.
So you're purple looking yellow, you know.
Yeah, fine. All right, it got purple now. Yeah. All right. So what we want to look for is at this point in time is to have people kind of look at the topics, because I mean the truth of the matter is, unless you read the textbook, you really wouldn't have a favorite that you can choose from, and partner up with somebody. And as I said, initially what we're looking at is teams of 2 or teams of 3 to be able to present this content that we're talking about at this point in time. So does anybody, hi Ms. Sullivan, I didn't realize you were projecting. Is anybody familiar with other people? Because initially it might be nice for you to work with somebody you already know.
I only know Mr. Cooper.
You know Mr. Cooper. All right. So, okay. Ms. Ramlal has left the meeting. I'm getting the idea that people are having dropout taking place. So we need to be able to set up some, and she's back, right? So Miss Ramlal, you having internet issues?
Yes, sir.
Right. Miss Cooper, Mr. Cooper, you having internet issues still? That's everyone is new to you. Yes, I know that is going to be the challenge that we're going to face, but we could work through it. We've been in challenges before. All right. Okay, so I want you all to think about it for a minute. Look at the titles of the chapters. So the chapters that you all are presenting starts with understanding self, then understanding others. Then chapter 6 here is integrity and moral purpose. Chapter 7 is teams and groups. Presentation 5 goes to the DAF, and there you're going to be doing over or looking at a different aspect of moral courage and moral leadership. Then we're back to the exploring leadership text, and we're going to be looking at being in communities, and then we're going to be looking at complex organizations. Then we switch back over to the DAF text to look at vision and strategic direction. For people who did principles of management, this is something that you've already met, but not from the perspective that it's looked at here. This looks more at the philosophical side of the impact of vision and strategic management. Then we look at power and influence, and the last chapter, which is a critical one, leading change. So these are some of the chapters that we're looking at. So what I want you all to do is to think and chat among yourselves right now, to determine which ones of the chapters. I mean, you don't have to go with people you know. You can go with somebody new and decide to have a different experience at this point in time. But I need you all to make some decisions now about which chapters you think you might be interested in presenting. Now, you're not just presenting it, you're teaching it, in other words. You're not just presenting the chapters, you're teaching the chapters. I am not, this class, my teaching ends at the end of chapter 3. The students then begin to take leadership responsibilities in this class to present the material and teach it. Okay? So this is why I was saying that this is in essence a practical class in taking charge and taking leadership positions, which might be good for some, for other people. Yeah.
I wait. Okay, I think I like Okay, I can't see the screen anymore.
Oh, I know. I switched off it, but I can go back on. I see Jadis. Mr. John says understanding others.
Take
I
it for
think
me
I
down for
like understanding self.
understanding self.
Who is All right. So when I'm presenting, I can't see the screen with the chats, right?
Okay.
Okay,
So
I'm
you
Nikhil.
need to identify who you are.
Eden. I like understanding self.
Alex Culture,
Alex Culture.
So I would like to do chapter 4.
moral purpose.
All right, hold on. Let me deal with chapter 4. Good. All right. So culture, you'd like to do
Moral purpose.
moral purpose.
Yeah.
All right. We have one person there.
So I would like to do chapter 4.
Who's I?
Megan, sorry.
Megan what?
Roxborough.
L-R-O-X. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
That's all.
I'd like to
Nikhil.
work with Joanne, Ali, and Liana, Ali on chapter 5.
Oh my god.
All right. Sorry. Let me finish with chapter 4 first.
Hi,
Eden Espinoza.
okay.
Espinoza.
Yeah, chapter 4.
Say
Right, is that-
Cooper as well for chapter 4.
No. Chapter 4 is only
Understanding skill.
only 2 people for chapter 4.
So I was one of the first people to see chapter 4,
Yeah,
you know.
Mikhail was the Yeah, he was the second person to say it after me.
All right. Okay, Miss Roxborough, you wanna move down to understanding others?
Problem.
No
So
problem.
that's what me and Liana said we are doing.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
See, look, you all need to start to learn to compromise, but we'll see. Mr. Cultures would need some assistance.
I'll go by him. I'll go with him.
You'll go with him? All right,
Yeah.
Mr. Culture. We'll start from there before, of course, World War II
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Um, so it's M. Cooper, right? You'll better do a good job, you know. All right, so which is L. Ali
Yeah.
and
And Joanne Thomas.
J. Thomas? All right. Okay, so all right, let's move down a little bit. Teams and groups. That'll be another two-man team, and then presentation 5 is another two-man team.
So Rachel here, I'll take teams and groups.
Teams and groups. Rachel who?
Sullivan, sorry.
Sullivan. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is it double Livan?
Livan, yes.
Hi, Sir Selena here. I will also take chapter 7.
What's the name again?
Selena Singh?
Singh.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna post this once we agree to it. I'm gonna post this here. All right. Chapter 6 of the draft. This is
So
another.
I'll take that
I
one.
would like-
Too. Kenroy Adams.
Kenroy Adams.
Yeah, courage and moral leadership.
All right. Good. Adams and somebody else was saying there was
Kila Monica.
Moniquette.
Yeah.
All right. Up to myself. All right. All right. So right now, the chapters here will require teams of 3. All right. So we have 10 people already here. But right now we don't have everybody. But let's see how we can kind of populate the rest of the chapters. Sorry.
Darian Singh,
We sing.
Alyssa Ramla, and Dominic Paris for chapter 9.
And who's the last person?
Dominic Paris.
The Paris Smith.
Alex Culture. Presentation 8, Chapter 13, Vision and Strategic Direction.
Okay. Say that again, sorry.
Vision and Strategic Direction, Alex Culture.
Alex, you can't say that twice. You're already in presentation 3.
Already what?
You're already in presentation 3.
Yes, presentation 8.
Yeah, but you can't. You're already set up in one group already.
Oh, I thought you said that. I thought you said that groups of 3. We were overlapping. I thought we were overlapping into the other groups.
No. We have to. Everybody from the class must present. So there's no ducking in this one. Everybody's presenting a chapter. So there are enough people in this class for all the chapters to be presented once we have assigned people to them. All right, so who's looking at complex organizations?
Yes, sir, this is Uncle George. I don't mind trying complex organizations.
Right. So let me get the first person who was talking. Just give me a name.
Anika George.
A. George. And who's the other person?
Liana Maharaj.
Yeah, no. All right. Any third person available?
I'll do it because I see you didn't put me down for understanding others. This is Jade.
Oh, Jade St. John.
Yeah.
She wasn't hearing me. All right. So who's looking at vision and strategic direction?
So I would like to go on the is it power and influence? I'd like to go.
Power and influence, and yeah, we could go there.
Yeah,
What's the name?
Shine Prosper.
All right. Power and influence. Anybody else seeing a chapter that they're looking interested in? You don't have to populate all at one at the same time. If you feel you might
So
like.
I will also go under power and influence, Aliana Isaac.
Aliana, no. Okay. All right.
Me
So
too, sir. I will go under power and influence.
Who's me too?
Unala.
Unala what?
McBurney.
McBurney. Okay. So I expect that maybe you guys should be exchanging some contact numbers with each other to be able to start to communicate about your chapters. All right. Okay. We still have presentation 8 and presentation 10 without people.
So, yes, sir. Are you going to create a WhatsApp group so contact numbers?
Yes, I am. But you could also set up subgroups with each other as well.
Okay, so no problem.
Okay. Yes. Anybody volunteering?
Sir, I would like to do presentation 10.
Who's I?
Caitlin Ramesa.
Spell RAM.
ASAR.
That's it?
No, RAMASAR.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? There must be other people in here who haven't yet taken a position. This is 10 up here, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. On my count, we have 22 people. So some people haven't taken Colin, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir.
Can I place you with Ms. Ramesa in leading change? Or if you want, there's another totally free one here. Vision and strategic direction. You could be the lead in that one.
Anyone.
Anyone? So I'll put you here. And Colin C. Jones. That way, at least I know that there are people in each group now. So there are only 3 people absent. So there's one more person who hasn't yet assigned themselves to a group. I have to look for you. Ms. Toppin, have you assigned yourself to a group? Oh wait, maybe she's unable to talk. Ms. Toppin? Hi, Ms. Toppin. Hi, Stephanie Aguilera. Hi, Stephanie. Can you check your audio and see what's going on? See if it works. Ms. McBurney, could you mute off a little bit? Thank you. Ms. Aguilera, could you it's not working. Go into your computer settings and see if you let's see, okay. You might actually have to go into your actual computer settings to set that up or restart your laptop. But I'm assigning people to chapter presentations. You can respond via chat. Do you think you want to be assigned to a chapter, chapter 10 or chapter 15? Which is presentation 10. That way you can get a chance to catch up on things. Yes? Okay, all right. I'll place you with that. I also need to get a phone contact for you. If you could post it in the chat, I will get it from there, please. All right. So I'm gonna put Toppin with Mr. Jones for the hour. For some reason, she doesn't seem to be able to respond. And that leaves us with the two people who are absent. So I will assign them immediately, but we'll see how that works out. So we have, anybody's familiar with these two individuals? Makeda Orr and Ariane Narayan Singh.
Nope, no sir.
Nope. All right, so we're gonna do. Colin, I'm gonna give you Narayan Singh. And to find out why Ms. Toppin is not being able to respond. But at least we have a little time to work with and Ms. Ramasa and Ms. Aguilera, I will give you, at least tentatively, I will give you Makeda O. Now, as I said before, push come to shove, you can in fact present with just two of you. So just in the event that they don't turn up or they drop the class or something along those lines, you all should be able to strategize a methodology for dealing with the absence, because there's time for you to be able to deal with that. All right, so we have a tentative schedule of presentations for the rest of the semester. You would notice that there are 2 presentations per session. So that means your presentations should be managed a bit in terms of looking at maybe to try to keep it to about 45 minutes, but there's a problem with it. The problem has to do with thanks a lot, Mr. Aguilera. The content tends to be a bit heavy for some chapters, so that creates a situation where the presentation can be a little longer. But if you can try to hold about between 30 minutes to 30 to 45 minutes, it'll be great. Because again, we have two people presenting or two groups presenting. So we don't want them to go too long. I will take, even though you guys are presenting, I will run the recording and record your presentations and post them to the e-classroom for people who may not have been able to attend class. They can look at your presentations. You will also be utilizing, or what I would advise, because of the nature of how presentations are evaluated, one of the things that we're looking at is the use of presentation aids. So I'd expect that you'd be using some form of presentation tool, maybe PowerPoint or videos or images of some sort. You have various things that you can choose to utilize, and you'd be evaluated on the successful use of those things in your presentations. Does anybody have any questions you want to ask about the presentations at this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking at the requirements for the presentations. I'm seeing a section entitled use of citation. Right.
Yes.
Now, again, I am a mathematics major. I don't do much writing and these things, right? I remember from other writing-based courses I did, the citations would take the form of a certain format in terms of the way you write it and you indent certain things. Now, because we are doing video presentations, what does a citation look like exactly?
Right. So there are two forms of citation during oral presentations.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The first would be as I said, like an oral citation. So if I would quote somebody, I might say, according to this study, or according to, let's say I was quoting Albert Einstein, according to Albert Einstein, so on and so forth. So I would do my citation in text, or in speech.
In speech, okay.
Right? And then the second form of citation, which will tend to come up, is that while you are using some presentation tool or instrument, you can place on the slide the citation in a small things at the bottom of the usage, or you can create citation listings at the end of your presentation, so that you would be able to cover yourself in terms of, well, this is not my material. This is material from somebody else, and these are my sources of images and texts or ideas that I've used. So that makes sense to you?
Okay, so in the latter case, if I'm using like a spreadsheet or something, that's when the citation could take the form of a text on whatever medium I'm presenting on?
Correct.
Okay, understood. Thank you, sir.
Generally, what we're thinking of is really you'll be generating slides.
Yeah.
And when you generate the slides, at some point you'd set up a slide. You don't have to do it constantly all the way through.
Right.
But you can create a couple slides down to the end to have all your citation listed there.
Okay.
All right. That makes sense.
I have a question. On that as well.
Go ahead.
During the actual presentation, do I have to include all the information regarding the quotes that I'm using, or can I just present and then at the end you see the list of people that I was quoting from and all that? Because it does not read very well.
Yes, I understand. And yes, that is allowable, that you can in fact, sometimes what you can do is on your slide you can have the source at that point, but you don't actually have to read it out because the source is already there for us to see, at least for those of us who can see and read. All right. And then at the end, you have your full citation, and well, we're looking at APA format. All right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So that, and you don't have to read your, or you just indicate, well, this is the sources of information that I've used. We don't need to actually present that, but just that it's there because you would be submitting to me your, as evidence of your presentation, you'll be submitting to me whatever the whatever presentation tools you use. You submit a file copy online for me to utilize as well. But I'll also be, as I said, recording the session and posting it as a video. Those videos will tend to be long, so I will host them on my YouTube channel and then do a link to it. That way, you should be able to handle we should be able to handle lengthy presentations during that period. All right, those are excellent questions. Anybody else has any questions they want to ask?
Sir, another question, sir.
Yes. This is Ken
again.
All right.
Yes, sir. Again, I'm just trying to get real clarity on this kind of thing, right?
Not a problem. Not a problem.
There's another section you have entitled on the group presentations called Style of Delivery. Could you expound on that a bit?
All right. So what we're looking for is a style of delivery that is appropriate to the content and the class. So we're looking for you to be able to present in a manner that works well with the situation and the content that you're delivering.
Okay.
So it could hinge on things of good use of humor.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Conversational approach.
Yeah.
Some people might choose to use a more question and answer type of approach to their presentation. You know, the probing question for the people, that kind of stuff. So those are the different styles of delivery. But and also because you're working with a team, every member of the team has to present, and the way in which you manage the people in your group is also part of the style of your delivery. So you might have a tag team approach where one person does a particular aspect, the other person does another thing, and then they come back and they keep on switching back and forth between the people. Or you have a more standard approach, which is one person does one section, and another person does another section. That's the more mundane, safe way. It's not a bad way. It's just that sometimes it works out that way. So I wouldn't advise that you just simply say, okay, you deal with this section, I can deal with that section. What you're looking for is you're trying to find the most interesting manner to bring the content across to the class, because you're not presenting. In essence, you are teaching. So you can use different teaching techniques to be able to elicit the response you want to get from the group, because one of the things we're going to be looking at is how effective your clarity of explanation and examples are looking at here. All right, because those are impact upon people's ability to understand your work or content. All right, so you use relevant examples in your presentation. Right?
Okay, I'm just jotting down notes as you're speaking. So
again, we're recording the session, so you could always go back and revisit what we're discussing when I post it onto the class site. All right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else has anything, or could we move on from this particular assessment? Not hearing any of the ladies asking questions.
Sir, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I missed it, but how long are the presentations for this assessment?
Well, because as you move from one set of chapters to another, the content will kind of change in terms of its length. So in shorter chapters, you might be able to be able to do it between 20 to 30 minutes. In the longer chapters, between 30 to 45 minutes. But it varies based upon the length of the chapter you're dealing with. Some chapters are exceedingly long, some chapters are short. As with most textbooks, because some concepts are more difficult and require more time to elucidate, as opposed to other concepts are more straightforward and therefore much easier to handle. So the length is going to vary. So I'm not going to, although there's one thing that we're looking at here in terms of time management, it's about how you've used your time as opposed to how much time you've used. That is the critical difference that I'm looking at. It's how efficiently you've used your time to present the material. Because sometimes people use a lot of time, but they don't do much,
Right.
as opposed to a short burst of time and they're able to accomplish a lot, and in a proactive manner. That that makes sense, Ms. Eden?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody else? So far, so good, everybody?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm good for you.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Nikila. I have a question, but I didn't know how to put it into the form of an actual question. It's you mentioned something about a slide, like when you're doing presentation.
Imagine you're doing.
When you when you're doing the presentation, you mentioned something about a slide.
Uh-huh.
Right. Now you see like how you're sharing your screen with us. Is that the same
Technique, yes.
yeah, okay. So I'm okay.
But I'm not using PowerPoint right now. I'm using a number of different documents.
Oh.
PowerPoint will be different. It tends to occupy the whole screen, and it should be a lot more clearer. So you need to be looking at if you log into Zoom and those kind of things by yourself, you could actually practice a little bit. Or I would suggest to you guys, you all could stop all that nonsense. You all could log in with each other and practice your presentations together online. Either in Zoom, or I don't know if you all could create meetings in Google Meet. You might be able to, but if you can create meetings with each other, you can practice the use of it. So one person can host it. I know with Zoom you could get up to about 30 to 40 minutes. WebNX is another instrument you can use, and I think I heard another one come up the other day. So yes, primarily one of the tools that you're going to utilize would be possibly PowerPoint, but another element that you could look at is the use of YouTube, for example, for short video clips that might be able to illustrate a point that you're looking at. All right, from the chapters. In fact, just to be clear, some of the chapters from the Exploring Leadership is available as audiobooks on YouTube. So for those of you who don't like to read, there's an option for you to go into YouTube and source or find those presentations or the audio files and listen to them for the chapters. All right. Okay. So anybody else wants to ask any questions?
Yes, sir. One more thing, sir. God, really sorry for taking all these questions.
No, that's okay. This is the time for it.
In terms of our mode of presentation, what you're saying is that we are not restricted to solely using PowerPoint slides.
No, you're not.
Okay.
It's whatever you can utilize that would make your presentation, what you think would make your presentation effective.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have to move along. Once we're finished with the presentations, you'd recognize that when we finish with our presentations, it means that we've actually completed all the material for the class. In terms of the actual material we have to assimilate to begin with. And that then brings us into a midterm exercise. And let's look at that midterm exercise. That midterm exercise, it takes the form of 4 compulsory short questions to be completed in an assignment format. All right. So I will share the questions with you after we finish the content, and you will see what it looks like. And you have a week to write your responses up and submit them online.
Yeah.
All right. So because the exam, well, it used to be an exam, but because we don't want to be doing face-to-face exams anymore, I've decided that I'm going to use this form of assessing your understanding and reflections of certain aspects of the course that are a little critical. So the exams actually will focus on groups and teams, on the leadership model itself that we're looking at, which is the well, you'll get to know it in a little bit, the relational leadership model, and the most critical element, or the most heavily weighted area of the exam, is on moral and ethical behavior and moral and ethical decision making behavior. So that's the three areas of the chapters that we're going to focus a lot more attention on, and that actually
The what?
the midterm.
That's not the one I showed.
The midterm exercise focuses its attention on these chapters here. The chapter here on presentation 3, all right, integrity and moral purpose, teams and groups, and well, the next chapter, the next area is the entire model that is being presented throughout the textbook. Okay. So that was a much broader concept question, which is why it's going to take you about a week for you to review the chapters, respond to the questions. Some of it is going to be just recalling and explaining material that you've done from the chapters, but others is for you to reflect on what you've done and look at it from your own experience. So it's a reflective exercise. All right. When you see the questions, you will understand. It's just that I don't want you to panic and go and get out of focus on it at this point, because it doesn't make any sense to look at those questions until we finish dealing with the content. So focus your attention on working through your presentations of your chapters, and then we will work through the others. All right. So, but I just need to let you know what. So I'm tentatively looking at the 19th of November to open up that exercise. It could change depending upon what happens. It gives us a little gap between. So we could actually move it up a little closer to the 9th, to the 5th. So we could probably open up the week following. So you get that whole week to be right after we finish all the content. Look at the midterm exercise, write up your responses, and then submit by a particular deadline. All right. And as I said before, that midterm exercise counts for 20% of your final grade. So between the midterm and your presentation, that's 50% of your marks for the course. All right. The next item that comes up is the debate. Now, the debate kind of closes the class off. That's because the debate is a live debate that will be conducted on the 10th of December. And it will consist of us debating 2 out of these 3 topics. Any 2, you all will get to choose. And the way in which the debate is going to be designed is that you will have the traditional for and against, but you will have a third team of moderators, and they would be the people who will conduct the debate.
Right.
All right. They will also, and the difference here would be, I am not going to assess anything in this particular assessment. The assessment is going to be, the students are going to assess each other. Because I cannot see why, if we're teaching you to take leadership positions, that we don't give you meaningful opportunities to exercise good leadership and ethical behavior.
Right, right.
So the moderators will be actual students from the class?
Yes, so that's where the 25 students from the class will be divided into 3 teams. one team to debate for, one team to debate against, and one team to moderate.
Yeah.
But of course, you just can't do those things in isolation. So I will be assisting the moderators and the debaters with the rubrics and the rules that govern the way the debate is going to be run. If we get an opportunity, we can run a mock debate on different topics and get accustomed to the environment to understand how we're going to do what. All right, so we could run a short debate on some other topical item. Should masks be worn in public? That kind of. Yeah, you understand what I'm talking about. Get some practice in before we actually tackle this. So it's
Yeah.
not be an absolute disaster when we started. Yes, sir. That makes sense? Yeah. But again, the decision about which topics to be debated will also not be my choice. It'll be the choice of the class. So the class must decide what they want. So again, this exercise here, I'm going to lay the framework down for it. Assist the teams in developing the instruments for assessment and evaluation, and then hand it over to you all to do the exercise, to set it up. And that to me is a great culminating exercise to see you all take leadership opportunities in hand and exercise with it, run with it. And I am looking at that as an indication to whether or not I've been able to accomplish some degree of change in you, from where you started this semester to where we've ended this semester, to see if I've been able to achieve learning outcome number 6, to elicit change. So,
Okay, question though.
yes, I'm here.
Who decides which side of the debate a team is on?
You all
Decide
get to
for
choose. You all get to choose. Again, I am not going to choose for you. You all have to come to some degree of consensus of who's going to do what and who wants to be on what team. Now, the way it works is this. The debating teams ought to be even numbers, and the moderating team can be an odd number. Why? Because you have 2 topics to debate. The pro team and the con team, or the team arguing against, would have to be subdivided into another subdivision for the topics. So let's say we have 8 people for, 8 people against, and the balance of the class, that's 16. So the balance of the class of, I think that's what, 11, take up the moderating role. Then for the teams of 8 are then subdivided into teams of 4, because let's say you choose topic 1 and topic 2. The team of 4, one team of 4 will deal with topic 1, and the other team will deal with topic 2. And what happens is that the who debates changes from one debate to the next. So it's not the same people debating the 2 topics, but 2 different groups. So everybody gets opportunities to argue and present. That making sense? So it's passed around. The moderators are responsible for administering the event, for controlling the debate, for making rulings, much like the Speaker of the House. And we actually will run it utilizing the Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure, so that even though we are online and we are in various environments, I would encourage that rules be set up for how the presentations are made, which means that when somebody is presenting their point, they will have to turn their camera on and present and that kind of stuff. So they still need to maybe dress the part of looking at it. In the meantime, I'll be recording the debate, which means the entire event can be put up in YouTube for you guys to download and have a look at yourselves after the fact. Most times I've done this, I've actually videotaped it and tried to share it with students via that same format as well. And a lot of times they have a lot of fun doing it, because it's quite an interesting thing. So how it works is that the moderators mark the debating teams, and the debating teams mark the moderators. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
I wouldn't like the two teams who are adversarially are set up for adversarial positioning to mark each other. So to kind of diffuse,
How are we going to mark the moderators?
you'll be using a rubric.
Like judgmental?
No. You're going to mark, like with everything that you're going to be doing, there will be rubrics for you to be utilized to mark. I will go through that as well. When they, as I said, when the time comes up and we're finished with the content, I will bring up those documents and then you would see them and be able to go through them and understand how to use a rubric to reduce the amount of subjectivity in marking processes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So that's what I said. I'm going to set up the framework for the evaluation to work and then give you the tools to be able to mark it. I will still reserve some, what is the word I want to use? Some veto power if I see things going wrong or I see people not following the rules that they should be following.
Right.
But generally, most people rise to the occasion and they're able to deal with the issues. All right. All right. So that's the third assessment that we're looking at. Any more questions about this? Nope. All right. So then now we need to look at so we have a date for that. We're tentatively looking at, well, we can't go any beyond the 10th of December. The reason for that is because the semester ends that week. So when I say teaching ends that week, and I don't want to have your debate during the following week, which is the exam week, just in the event that you might have an exam, either online or live. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Because I know the Minister of Health talked about institutions requesting permission for them to conduct exams. So we might be on that list as well. We got approval for
So,
it.
excuse me.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm hearing you.
You what? Sorry.
Edwell speaking.
Okay, so I'm having problems hearing you.
Yeah, I think she's the one having the problem because I hear you very clearly.
Yeah, I'm hearing you clearly as well, sir.
Right, but who's the person who's having problems?
Hi, Joanne.
Joanne. All right, so Joanne, what you can do, they may be right. You may be having some issues with your internet feed. So if you've missed anything and you think you want to, when I put the recording up, you can probably review the recording to see the areas that you missed. That make sense?
Yeah.
Because you're speaking to me and you're also breaking up as well. So I suspect that it might be your connectivity issues. Because I'm seeing a lot of people having to leave and then come back because of similar issues, which is why I'm recording it so that you can go and review these things along the way. All right? The Sullivan is very bored. So you're taking notes? Yes? All right. So I can read lips. We don't have to look at you. All right, so let's look at the last two, the self-analysis and the leadership plan. So let's start with the next one, which is self-analysis. This is for 20%. And this one you can almost begin to start by maybe about midway through the presentations, especially when we do chapters 4, 5, and 6. Which is you are to basically organize a reflective autobiography, not necessarily just looking at the chronological history of your life, but rather the review of your life in relation to leadership and ethics and people in your life that have impacted upon who you are as a person today. So the questions that are listed here, besides an introduction and a conclusion, the questions that are listed here are designed to help guide you through a bit of self-analysis and self-reflection. So you can begin to start to put some of this together almost immediately. Like that first question, what is your family history and what are your family traditions and customs? The other questions you may not be able to answer just yet until you do some content. So you start looking at some of the content before you can start to respond to them in the area. Now, questions that normally come up in relation to this assignment is, or I should say are, how long should it be? Well, it varies. Some people's autobiographies are long, some people's autobiographies are short. It depends upon how much life you've lived. How much detail do you need to go into? And again, it varies on how deep of an analysis you are willing to experience. Because this is about you doing self-exploration, and it depends upon how much you think you want to do in terms of your own journey of self-discovery. So this is a reflective exercise, but from a very pointed position of reviewing your life to date to account for who you are today, especially in the context of your leadership and leadership potential. All right.
This gonna be shared with everybody.
No, you're not sharing this with everybody. No. You're sending this to me directly. It'll be unfair to do this for the public, because there are things that may have happened in people's lives that they want to keep private, and I understand that, which means that your assignment is going to be evaluated using these guidelines here. What I'm looking for is you to run through the exercise and to but to use the opportunity to do the self-reflection necessary to understand yourself better. I sometimes encourage those members of my class who are in significant relationships. This is also something that you can share with your significant others to get to understand yourselves and who you are as a person in that relationship. But the primary reason that you're doing this is to do self-discovery. Whoever is doing chapter 4 and chapter 5, understanding self and understanding others, will play a very significant role in this particular assignment, because a lot of the content from those 2 chapters will impact upon your willingness and ability to evaluate yourself. Because in order to be a leader, to be a good leader, at least from the concept that we're looking from this model that we're going to be examining, is that we need to understand ourselves and what makes us behave the way we do, and understand what are our strengths and what are our challenges, and how do we use those as tools to make us better leaders, and in all environments, not just in work, but also at home, in church, in society, all around us. Because leadership is not something that just resides in business. It resides in our society. And this is where, when we start to look at some of the things, we need to really position ourselves and say, where am I in this leadership role? And how do I fit in, and what should I do? All right. Now, the second side here really is just the mechanics of the assignment. This is 20 marks here for the mechanics of the assignment, and there are 40 marks here for the content. You'll notice that I'm not evaluating citation here, because unless you are directly quoting other people's statements about, like maybe you find a nice quotation that says something in a manner that you like, then I'd expect some citation there. But the vast majority of this assignment is all going to be your own material. So there will be no need for citation, therefore not so much of an issue with citation for this. Okay? Any questions on this self-analysis assignment?
Yeah.
Yes.
It looks like you're asking people to write their own obituary.
It's not well, you could look at it from that perspective. There's a similar exercise that was done in a different leadership program that I did, called, I don't know if any of you all ever did this, you may have, the 7 Secrets of Highly Effective People. Are you all familiar with that book?
Yes, I am.
From Stephen Covey?
Yes, I am.
No.
All right. All right. So in that, one of the exercises we did was to write a description of your 70th birthday, of all the things that you had a huge celebration, and you had to write all the things that you would like to see happen on your 70th birthday. So think of it from that perspective, not an obituary, but more of a celebration of life. Make sense? That was the technique that Stephen Covey had used in that exercise, because we had to, when I did the exercise, we had to actually sit and write out who we would want to be there and what we'd like them to say about us. You follow? So because it makes you reflect upon who you are and what is the impact you've had on people around you. Have you sowed seeds of hate and distrust and confusion, or have you sowed seeds of happiness and contentment and friendship? So this is a similar type of exercise, but this one is looking at it specifically only really from looking at you evaluating yourself from the perspective of how are you, who you are today. Understanding that is important. And how has that impacted upon you as an individual in your leadership practice, what you currently use, all right? How have they impacted upon you currently? And sometimes it's a difficult thing to do. Other times it's quite straightforward for some people. All right.
I can do it now, but how long does this have to be?
It's as long as you need it to be, because some people's lives are much more require more reflection than others. So you might find, for example, younger students may not write a lot because they already may not have in their short lifespan experienced a lot, so there's little to reflect on. But for older students or older individuals, they may have a lot more that they want to say because they've lived so much more time. But I've also found that there are young students who may have lived a shorter lifespan, but they've lived a very, what I would say, a long life in that short space of time, because they can speak to a lot more. I mean, they've had more to deal with than someone who may have come up in a very traditional, controlled environment. People who come from very rocky backgrounds might have a lot more they want to get off their chest and talk about, and because a lot of times nobody wants to talk about this stuff. In fact, this is the first time you're going to get an opportunity to rant and rave about who you are and where you come from without, and be marked for it, for that matter, and not be judged, because that's the other thing. I'm only going to apply a mark because I'm looking for how you've developed your story. I can't determine if I would know though, because it doesn't ring true. I can't really tell you what you've done is right or wrong, but what I'm really trying to assess is that you're going through the process of evaluating and making the linkage between the aspects of your life developing you into the person you are today. That make sense?
All right. From what I'm looking at, this is a written presentation.
Yeah, it might be something like that. You could think of it from that perspective.
It seems like
What do you think? Yes?
It seems like something very interesting to get into, so I kind of excited about it.
Yep, it is. It can be, I would say, it can be a daunting exercise, but at the same time, it will be an enlightening exercise if you take it seriously.
Yeah.
If you take this seriously, this can do a lot for you in terms of creating some catharsis with things that are past and that are gone past, and it can also create an opportunity for you to look to begin again. For those people who are especially maybe going through a rough time right now, and this is a rough time for us as a country. It can be cathartic for you and for all of us to write and kind of evaluate ourselves. This is something that is synonymous with, when you come to the end of a year, you try and reflect on what you do for the year. This one is asking you to reflect on your life so far. Yeah.
I have a question though.
Yes. Go ahead.
a lot of people said they were studying sociology, helping people and psychology and a whole bunch of stuff like that, and they're very silent.
Well, because they probably recognize how difficult this might be. This is not necessarily an easy exercise. This can be, but more importantly, they may have been given more opportunities to do this type of reflective writing. But the vast majority of students here are actually management students. We have a few graphics and communications, but I didn't hear a lot of sociology students in this class. And psych. I didn't hear a lot of that. Maybe I'll have a different group with more. But usually even those students who do psych and soc don't they're a little more comfortable with this depends on how far into their program. But they also tend to be able to write this quite well because they understand the value of it. All right. Okay, so any more questions from anybody else? I mean, these two guys seem to be dominating things. Anybody else wants to ask any question? Just check the chat and make sure there's no questions in the chat. Yes,
well, this is kind of backtracking to the first set of presentations, right?
Yeah.
Now, I know that we were placed into groups and we have to present on our assigned topic, right?
Yeah.
Right. But what I'm wondering, I'm guessing it's still recommended that we still read through all the other topics. I don't know.
The chapters?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you mean you don't necessarily have to read them with the degree of what's the word I want to use? With the degree of intensity that you'd have to look at the chapter that you must teach.
Right.
But yes, it'll be a good idea for you to continue looking, even if you finish presenting or you're waiting to present, be looking at what techniques people are using and the flow of the content as it's moving. Because again, the only way this course is going to make sense and be useful for you is if you do follow through reading, which is why I said that most of the chapters are available as YouTube audio files.
Yeah.
So you can download them, and if you have like a YouTube ripper software, you can rip it and put it on your phone and listen to it when you're driving, doing other things. All right. But for the chapter that the chapter that you're presenting, that one you would have to really pull it apart and
dissect it and
work out what you're going to be doing in terms of your presentation. All right. So the last assignment that's available, not available, but it counts for 15%, is called the Reflection and Leadership Action Plan. And there's one question here that you should, at some time before the next class that we have, you should write this question up now, because as you commence this course, reflect on what your expectations of this course will be, what your expectations of this lecturer, what I am to you, and what you expect of yourself for this course. So it's basically an expectations, but I need you to really do it before we actually tackle any content. Because you'd see that question 2 can only be answered when you have when we have completed the debate exercise. At the end of the course, reflect on how your expectations identified above have or have not been met. So the two of them is a before and after situation. And again, you ought not to be writing the response to question 2 until we have actually literally come to the end of the semester. However, if you look at the other questions, they're about reflection. How much have you learned about yourself during the semester? So some of these things you can begin the process of writing up your responses, and then when we get to the end of the semester, you can wrap them up and write stuff and send it in. Okay, so for example, pretty early through, you might look at what is your philosophy of leadership that is starting to develop? As we start to go through the different models and approaches and the relational model that we're going to be looking at, how do you feel about that model, and do you think it's a good idea, or you still holding to, you know, what you traditionally think about from before, you know, and whether or not any change has taken place? Some of these things you're going to start to realize, or hopefully see, if we take the exercises seriously along the way. So you have some more reflection here to again do. And again, there's the same thing, the introduction and conclusion, and then your responses to the question counts for 40%. And the mechanics of how you put your document together is a 20% exercise here as well. All right, so far so good. Any questions about this? Because that's the last assessment. Again, these last two are due, and I put this here as the 24th of December, but I'm thinking I'm going to move it to the right. So I'm going to move it to the 27th of December, which is the Sunday after Christmas. Now, again,
as Kenroy said, whoa.
Yeah, initially, the reason for it is because I have until the 3rd of January to put your grades in. So usually I'd like to get, you know, a fair amount of time to be able to, because for me, it's a lot of reading. And interestingly, this semester I have 3 of these classes, and all of these classes are in excess of 24 students. So it's a lot of reading. So I know I have my work cut out for me. My Christmas set. Let's put it that way. All right. But no, I mean, to be honest with you, this is a class that I never. The first time I taught it was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was really hesitant to teach it because I didn't know one hell about what was going on in this class. And when I started teaching this class, it became my favorite class to teach, because for me, I can see the richness of this class, and I can see the growth of students through the class as they change and modify themselves, and their behavior changes as well, especially as it comes up. So I enjoy it, but I mean, I don't know what Christmas will be like with COVID. I expect it might be very subdued. So I think I should be able to handle my stories with this class. We'll see how it goes. But it's a lot of work here, guys. But again, the 2 things I want to promise you. I will be fair with my marking, and I will also treat all your information all your assessments with a high level of confidentiality. Nobody but myself and you would see your documents. To this day, I will keep your documents for a little while, and then I will delete them.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know that there are times when people will write about some very personal and sensitive things. Even in the midterm exercise, there are some personal things that you may be reflecting about during the midterm exercise as well. So what you already have is you have 3 reflective exercises from different perspectives, and 2 group-based activities, one with team presentations and the other with a larger grouping of debating exercise. So that is the strategy that we want to utilize throughout the semester. And those are the assessments that we're utilizing to try and evaluate everything. So let me just save the changes here. I'll be posting this schedule on the e-classroom. Now I've been waiting to go post there. Yes.
And while you're logging in, on the debate presentations, if if they're group presentations, how are we going about doing that?
Say that again.
I said on the debate presentations.
Yes.
How are we going about doing that if we have to do it online?
Pretty much like how we do it now. We'd have to write rules of how people are. Think about Parliament, because there are a couple of parliaments in session right now that are using Zoom and that kind of stuff. And think about it from that perspective. So let's say, for example, we were in a debate. The rules of debating indicates that each person has a specific time allotted to them for speaking. During that time, however, you are allowed to intervene to ask questions, but the questions have to fall within particular frameworks. You just can't raise a question any which way. In a debate, in a class, you can simply, speak out and I will stop and we will chat. Making sense? And deal with the questions that you have. But that's why I said that what governs the debate will be the Roberts Rules of Parliamentary Behavior or parliamentary procedures. All right. So if you want, you can look up the Roberts Rules just to get an idea. But if you've ever paid attention to any form of parliamentary debate, you just can't hop up and just say what you want. You have to get the attention of the Speaker of the House, and the Speaker of the House must recognize you, which means they will have to stop the person who is speaking and then bring the other person. So that's why I said the way in which it's done would require us to actually see each other, so that at least the two primary speakers should be presenting with their images up, so that it would help with the visuals as well. That make sense?
Yes,
Trust
sir.
me, I did it last semester. It worked out nicely. The only problem with when you're doing video, it like somebody like maybe Joanne Thomas may have problems with maintaining both audio and video because it occupies bigger bandwidth. So depending upon the quality of your connection, we have to be flexible when it comes to that. That makes sense? Yeah. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any more questions about the content so far from anybody? Well, hold on, Kenroy. Let's see if other people have questions. Because between you and Alex, you all have been kind of dominating things a little bit. Let's give the other people opportunities. No? Ms. Sullivan?
I have to gather all my thoughts on this right now.
Okay. So while you're gathering your thoughts, I just want to show you the classroom that some of you may have gone to. So what I'll do is I'll be putting the finalized course schedule and assignment details here for you to download your own copy. So I'll be loading that on. Session recordings will go into this block here. All of those things we talked about, there are places for you to submit here. This is where you'll be submitting your assignments. So if you click on it, it'll ask you the same information that's there is presented here. And I'll set up the submission points for you. But these are the submission points. All right. From my perspective, I see this way. So I'll update this with some more of the information from the document. So there's some sections that you are not seeing right now, but it's here right now. The debate forum is up. It's waiting to come up. There's a debate recording. I have to get rid of the one from last semester. And then there's a section here to place your chapter presentations in with your PowerPoints so that other people can access them if they've missed the presentation. So I might move everything, all session recordings up here as well. All right. And the midterm is already here waiting, but I'm just holding it back because I want you all to focus right now on the group presentations, the chapter presentations to start with. Okay. All right. All right. So are there? Okay, I'm seeing a chat here. Let's see. Yeah, I realize that a lot of people seem to be having Wi-Fi issues. That's understandable. I get the impression that the as in the afternoon, the problem tends to be that a lot of people tend to log on to their systems for whatever purpose. And a lot of times it has to do with streaming content and whatnot, and that's creating some problems. Well, this is one of the reasons why I'm recording it, so that I will post it on my YouTube channel, put the link up on the on that part of the classroom that I just showed you there. Session recordings, this area here, I'll put the links here. So the recordings there, and then I'll put the student presentations down here. So I might bring them closer to each other so that it kind of in one section. Okay. So you'll be able to kind of go back over and hopefully catch up on things. All right. So anybody has any questions that they want to ask for clarification? Further questions, that is.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Concerning citations is APA, right?
Yes, APA is the format for citations for the presentation and any other document you think you need to utilize citation for. Anybody else? I wonder if everybody's sleeping.
Yes, sir. Not sleeping, I just don't have any questions.
All right. I know you all might be feeling a little overwhelmed right now, but trust me, it's one chapter at a time. Okay, one chapter at a time.
I was just going to say all the information seems like a lot at the moment, and I can't process it all one time. But yeah,
So
I feel a little overwhelmed, but I'll get through.
that is understandable because I presented the whole cake, but you don't eat a whole cake all at once. We do it slice by slice, and that's the whole objective here. We're going to be chopping this cake down bit by bit. The difference, though, is that generally you all will be sitting back, and I would be expending a lot of energy trying to find ways of presenting and yada yada. You realize that the technique that is being utilized in this class is that the teaching and learning aspect has been moved over to you guys for you to take a more active role in the process. All right.
Yeah.
And that active role is for you to be able to put into practice exactly what we're trying to get you to understand about leadership and ethical behavior and good governance. Those are the key things. I mean, I could tell you a little bit about the genesis of this course, and because this course was generated and first created in about 2009. We always had a business ethics class, but the leadership part came up when we had a crisis of leadership. We still have crisis of leadership, but we had a serious crisis of leadership in Trinidad and Tobago around 2009, between 2008 and 9, during that and 2010. And the concept that the president at that point in time had was that he would have liked to develop a course that would encourage people to understand better what leadership really is and what ethical leadership was all about. To be able to institute some change in society from the ground level come up. Because the idea was that it may be too hard to try and initiate change among older people. But if we were able to build a cadre of people from individuals who would eventually rise to leadership positions, then we might be able to make a contribution to the development of better leadership, better quality of leadership in the country overall. Okay, that's kind of like where it came from. But again, it may look like a lot, but it's little bits at a time. All right. So is there anybody in this class who's doing like 6 classes? Or 5 classes? Because this might require some time for you to know.
Yes, sir. I'm doing 5 courses.
5? Yeah. So manage your time well. Ramlal, yes, 5.
Yes, sir. I'm doing 6.
Colin, you're doing 6?
4.
All right. 4. All right, guys. Jadis and John, 4. You'd understand that managing your time is going to be critical. Okay.
Yeah.
4. All right. 4 is going to be a stretch. People doing 5 and 6. Who's the person who's only doing this one class? Liana, 4. All right.
So that's me.
Mr. Cooper.
Nikhil.
Yeah. Mr. Cooper, right? You're going to have. Well, then you should have more time. You're doing 3 and there's 2. All right, fine. But we'll see.
That's the assumption, yeah.
That's the assumption, but I don't know what else is going on here. Like, I thought you just told me in school. I guess you're working as well. So, all right. So, are there any other Ramasaf 4? All right. Oh, yeah, you're all gonna have some stress. I can tell her. All right. Does anybody else have questions? Anything they want clarified? Now, when I set up, yes.
In respect to the presentations for each week, will you be at the end of the presentations of both groups? Will you be expanding on like the information they may have missed or any comments you would give?
Well, I would hope that the class, having read the chapter, would be able to straighten up anybody who was ducking content. But on yes and no. If it's really, really bad, I will intervene. But I'm trying to give you all an opportunity to understand that you have a responsibility to the people when you present, that they're trusting that you are presenting the information to them. It is a tricky thing because that's what teachers have to go through all the time. We know this amount of information, and then we have to work out how do I bring it across to this set of individuals so that they understand it. And can I afford to chop off any piece of it to shortchange my population, my responsibility? And the answer to that is no. You cannot shortchange the people in your class. So if I do see that happening, I would have to intervene, yes. But the opportunity, my thinking is that you would recognize your responsibility and rise to the occasion. In fact, I'll be marking you for your presentations at the same time you're presenting. So obviously, and you will be getting, after you finish your presentations, I'll be letting you know where you scored immediately. So you'll know one time if you've done a good job or not. So you will know where you stand very quickly when it comes to that first 30% evaluation. All right. So while you are presenting, I will be using the rubric to be able to mark you guys in terms of what you're doing. All right. But yes, Miss Isaac, if I do see somebody making a lot of mistakes, I will step in and try and help them to get in a particular groove and get it right. All right. Are you worried that they're going to mislead you, Miss Isa?
No, not that. I was just thinking of like if we miss out any like subtle information that you would like want for us to know
Well,
or to like
uh,
expand on something.
well, again, the textbook is not subtle. You should be able to. Again, it's an exercise in you being able to go through information, go through ideas, and practice something called information discrimination to work out what are the most critical things I need to extract from this and present. So there's a lot of deep analysis that goes into deciding what to present and what to leave out. Now, one of the things that tends to happen in most books is that they tend to use a lot of illustrations and examples. So you don't necessarily have to use their examples and illustrations. You can develop your own. That means that you've taken the core idea out, but you've used a different example to illustrate it that puts it in the context of the experience of us here in the Caribbean. Because again, the unfortunate thing is this textbook is written, both textbooks are written from the American experience. When you start to read it, you will see the first chapter actually starts to put it in the context of this book is written with leadership in mind in the American institutions of college, of their universities and stuff like that. So you have to pay attention to making it contextually correct. So you don't need to stay with the examples that come from the textbook. You can deviate. But again, the responsibility of determining what to edit out or leave out and what to include is up to you. But remember, your students also have a responsibility to keep you in check as well. Remember, they are supposed to have read the work, and if they have read the work, they would know that this group didn't present this part of the thing, and I thought that was important. And that should lead to a question being asked during your presentation, because if you look at the criteria for evaluating that, you'd see quality and degree of class interaction. So that speaks to the ability of you to be able to stop and ask a question, especially if you see a group going awry. It's not only my responsibility to help correct things when they may be going wrong. It is also our collective responsibility to ensure that things go right. Okay?
So what we did, waiting the entire semester? Or?
No, we are holding each other responsible for something that I hope you would understand that is important to you, which is your education, your learning. We are trusting that the other members of class value the efforts that you are going to put in your presentation. And therefore, if you've gone out of your way to make sure that everybody understands the chapter that you have presented to them, and you found all these unique ways of teaching things, and then somebody comes up there and does this kind of slapdash annual how thing, how would you feel? You understand what I mean? How would you feel if somebody just did, some sort of half-ass thing and try to get past with it?
Extremely disappointed if I didn't read the chapter.
Exactly. Right? But it is also dependent upon whether or not you've read the chapter, which is why in reading the chapter, you have to hold them accountable to not only to the. I know what the chapters are, because I've read this book several times. And I will actually be using the book as they go through their thing to be able to mark them. Now, I'm not going to be projecting during those sessions because I want to give bandwidth over to you guys, but I will be handing over the sharing ability to one of the other students from that presenting group. But I'm going to be shutting off my mic and stuff because I'm going to be typing a lot, because I'll be using the same laptop to take notes and mark the assessment. All right. Again, it is not necessary that every group projects their images to present, because you recognize that if you start presenting and your image is up, there is this program's a little tricky because you can see yourself a little bit, but you can't see enough when you're going on to the present, because the screen just kind of locks off that part of it. You're still presenting your image to the individuals, but whatever you're presenting takes up the rest of the PC. So I don't see myself when I'm going to a page to, like, now I can see you because I'm just on the presenting the key page. But once I move off of this and I go to any other part of the software that I want to show you something from, I don't see anything. So I can't maintain a visual, because, well, most of you all aren't projecting an image as well. So that also is something else that deals with there. All right. Any other questions anybody wants to ask? We're coming up on about 7:30. Oh, one thing that Joanne Thomas brought up was whether or not a 5 o'clock start makes sense for everybody, or would you prefer that I start about 5:30 instead, to allow people time to come home from work and get settled?
So I honestly reach home like a little after 5, so I will not be able to make it like exact 5 on time. I don't, because of work. I don't know if anybody else.
Well, Joanne, Ms. Thomas is actually indicating the same thing, and I suspect that it may also be the same thing for a lot more people. So what I'll do is the next live class that we're having, which is not next week but the week after, I'll set it, and in the invitation you'll see the time will change to 5:30. That should give people time to get home and get settled.
Right.
And that kind of stuff. And there'll be less rushing around, and maybe you could get something to eat and, you know, take a shower and, you know, be more relaxed on your in your presentation. All right, Megan?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Does that mean we'll end up going up to 8:30 instead?
Well, it depends when we're making presentations and stuff. If people's presentations start to get, well, they start to hold to that 45 minutes, yes. Then we might start to go up to about 8:30.
Okay, no problem.
All right. But again, remember, that's not gonna be for every class. It's only going to be for about 5 weeks when presentations are going on. And then after that, we pause on sessions, and then we come back and deal with it. The debate itself might actually go, it might be within the 3 hours, but it might very well take a little longer than the 3 hours. And there's timekeeping and stuff that's dealt with that. Anybody else has any questions? Everybody else would agree to start from 5:30 instead, to give people a chance to get home and settle?
That's fine by me.
All right. Most students are asking for that half an hour grace, so I have no problem starting the meeting from 5:30, but I'll probably open the meeting up from about 5:15 or so, to give people 15 minutes to. All right, Miss John, I see what you're saying. All right, thank you.
One last question, though.
Yes, Mr. Culture.
What happens if my internet connection drops during a presentation?
Well, we'll have to just deal with it and wait for you to get back in and that kind of stuff. I mean, we've had situations like that before. What has happened in the past is that, especially because you have a team or group presenting, if you've lost connectivity, all right, Kenroy. If we've lost connectivity, we either wait for you to come back, or your team member can, you know, take over and take charge while you're reconnecting. One of the things that most of the students were doing last semester was that when they were in groups with each other, they were also, when they were online, they were also chatting with each other via WhatsApp or some other communicative device, to, you know, key each other with any questions or concerns that was coming up during the presentation, so that they wouldn't disturb the presenter, but be able to communicate with them additional things. So you might have you might have those kind of opportunities coming up like that. All right. Okay. Somebody asked a question here. So 5:30 to what time? All right. So depending until how long the sessions go, we should be from 5:30. We should be still finished by 8. It depends upon how presentations go. It might go a little beyond. If people have to drop out the class because of circumstances in their home requiring it, that's fine. You can duck out. Just come back and view the recordings to catch up on what you might have missed. All right. That's the reason why we're doing these recordings as well. All right. Anybody else having any questions or queries or concerns? All right. So when I set up the WhatsApp chat, you can also ask questions and bring up concerns and stuff like that there. You might also want to set up your smaller group chats as well, so that you can have a more private space to communicate about your chapters and stuff like that. So those are things that you can look at. All right, welcome back, Mr. Ramasa. All right, anybody else?
Sir, the stuff that you would have went through in terms of the course outline and whatnot, you're putting that on the e-classroom one time?
The schedule you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
This is going up onto the e-classroom as soon as I hear you're talking about. So I mean, I can do it right now. But you don't have to actually see me do it. So
yeah.
All right, but yes, I'm gonna add that schedule here, and that way you all can download it and have a copy and know what you're doing. Just be careful that you don't delete anything from it. All right.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop presenting now. All right, guys. So it was great meeting everybody. I hope we have a good semester. You sound like a very enthusiastic group. So that's not funny, Rachel. Laughing. I hope you all have a good time in the class. It may be challenging. It may be challenging, but I think you will have a good time. All right. So if there are no other questions or concerns or issues that anybody wants to bring up, we could call it Jorge for the evening. And you all could all go back home. Selena?
Okay.
All right. I hope you all get happy. All right. Good night. Travel safe.
Good night, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
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 Yes, baby.